Hello, BookTube. Well, we come to it at last, the end of another March Mystery Madness. March Mystery Madness is a 9-year-old BookTube event celebrating murder mysteries. I've been loving it the whole time that it's been in existence. I've been a co-host many, many times. I'm a co-host this year. And it comes to an end today. Today's the end of March. So I'd love to hear, I'll ask you at the end as well, I'd love to hear what your own March Mystery Madness was like. Uh, I decided for mine, one of our prompts for this year was to read the ninth book in a series, since we're in our ninth year. And I decided to just run with that for my own March Mystery Madness. So a lot of the reading that I've done, uh, a lot of the reading that I've done this month has been ninth books in series. And it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about, what a series has to do to live that long and to be carrying its weight that long. Not all of that learning has been thrilling, but I've encountered some new authors that I liked. But I thought that for the final outing here for March Mystery Madness, I should go back to where I began the month, to Agatha Christie. So I started out the month with the ninth appearance of one of Agatha Christie's two signature characters, Miss Marple. And I thought I would end the month with the ninth appearance of her other signature character, Hercule Poirot. So I reread Lord Edgware Dies, which came out in 1933. And it involves Poirot and Arthur Hastings, his friend and companion, and Inspector Japp are they're involved right from the beginning. They're involved with a case that involves the fourth Baron Edgware and his wife, the former actress Jane Wilkinson. The novel starts off at a stage play. Another actress is doing impersonations. She's famous for impersonations, and she does an impersonation of Jane Wilkinson that is savagely accurate. And Wilkinson is in the audience and seems to Hastings anyway to be enjoying the parody. But she contacts Poirot because she wants to end her marriage to Lord Edgware, and he seems moderately okay with that. But Lord Edgware ends up dead. That's not a spoiler. It's right there in the title. And so does that parody artist, allegedly, seemingly by her own hand. But the police have all sorts of questions, and Poirot gets involved right away. He gets involved with this mystery. What is going on here? And who is to blame? What's the real story? And we get vintage mystery. Just vintage Christie. It's a twisty, turny narrative with plenty of suspects, all kinds of misdirection. The misdirection here is marvelously done. Just marvelously done. So that even if you know it's coming, even when you know that's what she's trying to do, you're still going to think, well, all right, she's trying to do that, but this can't be totally irrelevant. And it fools everybody but Poirot, who is a wonderful character in these pages, completely different from Miss Marple, in all ways but one. They see through things. They see through red herrings, whether they're intentional or accidental. They see clearer. Christie's really good with that aspect of both these characters, although Miss Marple is self-deprecating about her ability to see clearer, and Poirot is arrogant about his. He knows perfectly well that he sees clearer than anybody else, and has a ribbing kind of relationship with Arthur Hastings along those lines. This has often been compared to the relationship between Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, but Holmes doesn't stick it to Watson anywhere near as much as Poirot does to Hastings. I don't know. I noticed it a lot in this book, but I noticed a lot in this book. It's on the surface, on paper, in architectural drawings. This is a masterful piece of Christie art. A perfect example of why this author was such a publishing juggernaut. If you can produce this kind of thing 2 times a year, it's lock solid. It's got a great gimmick at the 2/3 mark. The actual thing that causes the bell of inspiration to go off in Poirot's head is a masterfully done thing. You could easily see it being done poorly if it were done by almost anyone else. Instead, it works perfectly, just perfectly. It will fool you. There are twists and turns in this book that will fool you the first time out. This is not my first time out with the book. I thought to finish March Mystery Madness with this thing in a way to renovate my opinion of it. Because the first time I read this, I really did not like it. And the second time I read it, when I had this mass market paperback, I disliked it even more. And so I thought, give it another try. Give it a try for March Mystery Madness. You've been pleasantly surprised all month long. And I guess maybe I was, because I now see completely the skill involved in this. This is an extremely skillful piece of work. But it's an ugly one. And I don't just mean the death. Lord Edgware is given an appropriately gruesome death. And there's another death later in the book that's also kind of gruesome. But I don't mean that. I mean the voice of the author, which it isn't always in isolation. Often the voice of the author is muted and transformed into the voices of other characters in the book. But the one thing that it has in common, whether it's the author just interpolating narrative or whether it's the author putting words in a character's mouth, the one thing that all that has in common is how ugly it is. How utterly ugly it is. The ribbing between Poirot and Arthur Hastings in this book seems mean-spirited. Seems like Poirot just daring the guy to stop being his friend. I barely detected the jocularity that is often present in that ribbing. I barely detected it at all in this book. The characters are all hateful. They all hate each other. And they're steeped in bigotry. And offhand, coarse sociopathy. I mean, this was 1933. This was almost a full century ago. So you're going to expect a little bit of racial insensitivity, for instance, or sexism, which, definitely don't let Agatha Christie off the hook just because she was a woman. You're going to expect things like that. We are accustomed to things like that. I say you, the viewers of this channel. So sophisticated, nimble-kneed, nuanced readers, not babies, not little readers, but sophisticated readers. So you're going to know to expect that, and you're going to know not to throw out the book because of that, unless that's the point. If you're reading something like the Turner Diaries, well, that's the point of the book. So you can throw it out for that. Why pollute yourself with that kind of filth if there's nothing else going on? But we know that isn't always the case, that often that's not the case, and that you have to be adult about it. Well, you don't have to be adult about it, as school districts all over the United States are showing. You don't have to be adult about it. You can just pass a law to throw these things on a bonfire. But I was about to say for good or ill, but I shouldn't say that because it's entirely for good. Our sensitivity to things like this has increased in the last 50 years, and then in the last 30 years, and then especially since George Floyd and the Me Too movement. Our sensitivity to these things has increased, and that's good. That's a very, very good thing. That does not mean at all that you have to write namby-pamby, mothball-y, rounded edges, safe fiction. Obviously, plenty of people are out there writing as dangerous fiction as ever been written. But, and it's also not self-censorship. It's just that those things were never right. They were always wrong, and we're more sensitive to it now. Fortunately, the crowd that I have landed among in BookTube can be incredibly sensitive to these incredibly insensitive things in earlier books without discarding the books. Fortunately, that knee-jerk reaction isn't there. That censorship image is not there. So you won't discard this. You won't discard Lord Edgware Dies, and I didn't either, but boy, oh boy. I came closer with this than I do with most Christie books. This is an ugly book. I don't mean the murders. This is a book written by a coarse, largely stupid bigot who has just a dealer's choice deck of cards of different bigotries to deal with, whether it's racial or social, class bigotry. I mentioned that in connection with Miss Marple many times. It's on full display here. But also employment bigotry, sexism, racism, just... It's all over this book, and I want it to stay there. I want it to be unchanged. I don't want anyone going into. I know people are doing it already, and they will continue to do it. But I of course completely disagree with people going into Christie and changing all that. No, the censorship that should go on here is, if that's the point of the book, then don't bother to go in and clean it up. Just drop the book. Just stop doing it. Stop printing the book. Let it die. If it's not the point of the book, and it's certainly not here, Christie's point is to entertain you. She's just letting too much of herself show, and it's not an attractive self at all. If it's not the point of the book, if the point is other things, here it's the spinning of a clockwork wonderful murder mystery, well then you can enjoy the clockwork wonderful murder mystery, and you just have to absorb and process all the rest of it. We're all accustomed to that. We do that all the time, whether you're reading 19th century British fiction or 1930s pulp fiction or whatever it is, whatever the thing is that you draw a lot of enjoyment from, vintage mysteries. No matter what it is, you're going to encounter stuff like that. And you just have to strain that stuff out in order to enjoy the stuff that is there that you can enjoy. There's a lot here to enjoy, but I guess my point is, to end March Mystery Madness, that there was a lot more of that to strain out in this book than in other mysteries, in other Christie mysteries that I've read even this year. I mentioned this years ago, I think it was right after I reread this in this paperback edition. It was right after that I mentioned this book on this channel, and I mentioned all these things, how coarse and ugly it seemed. And I was kind of hoping when I returned to it last night that maybe I would think I was overreacting to that, or that maybe that wasn't quite as bad, or maybe it was very much meant to be the character and not the author. I didn't get any of those impressions, though, this time around. I'm afraid I just didn't. So, unfortunately, my March Mystery Madness for 2024 ends on a down note. The last few books have been down notes, either blah or disappointments or whatever Lord Edgware Dies was. I won't say that it was a disappointment because I loved it as a mystery. I loved it. It was just the rest of it. The thought that I had when I finished it last night, early this morning, when I finished it this morning, the number one thought that I had was, boy, how much I would have liked to read this mystery written by someone else. The exact same mystery, same characters, same dialogue, only change it. Change the sensibility of the person telling the story. Wouldn't I love that? But that's the price we pay. It's the author who writes the books, and that you have to deal with the author as well as the book. So that is my final report for March Mystery Madness. It's not the last time I'll talk about murder mysteries in 2024. I read murder mysteries all year long and love them. Even when they give me trouble, I still love them. So I'm sure that I'll be making progress reports on other mysteries. But that's it for March Mystery Madness for this year. I look forward to it for months, and it's been wonderful. I've loved all the videos that I've seen, and I'd love to know how your March Mystery Madness went. What did you do for the event at all? Did you read a murder mystery or more than one? Are you a big fan of the genre? Did you try to strike out into pastures new? Did you try reading number 9 in a series? The gimmick that I pursued? I'd love to hear all about it, but I will continue talking about murder mysteries. Don't you worry, all year long. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.